When you first install Kontrast, the very first thing you see is a quote from Nikola Tesla. If you want to understand the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration. That sets the stage perfectly because Kontrast is all about rethinking how sound can be created and understood. This isn't just another wavetable synth, it's a complete reinvention of the process. Traditional wavetable instruments give you a collection of slices to scan through, usually displayed as 3D mountains and valleys. Kontrast changes that completely by treating a wavetable as a grayscale image, where black equals -1, white equals +1, and every shade of gray in between is a value in the waveform. Instead of being locked into straight lines through those slices, Kontrast lets you scan through the image with organic shapes, circles, spirals, rose curves, even irregular evolving patterns. That's the heart of its scanline engine, and it's what allows Kontrast to feel alive and endlessly expressive. You're not just choosing a waveform, you're interacting with sound as a visual landscape. So in this video, we're going to take a section-by-section journey through Kontrast so you can see exactly how it works. We'll start with the scanline, then explore the oscillators, filters, effects, sequencer, and modulation system. Along the way, you'll see how each piece connects to shape the instrument into something far more flexible than the typical wavetable synth. By the end, you'll not just have an overview, but a working knowledge of how to use Kontrast in your own productions. Kontrast is built for exploration, and this walkthrough will provide the foundation to dive in and start discovering for yourself. So sit back, relax, and let's explore Kontrast together. Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at Kontrast, the brand new wavetable synthesizer from Dawesome. And what I love most about Kontrast is it really introduces this idea that the world is your wavetable, meaning that any picture you have on your phone or your camera can now become a wavetable. Not only that, but any sample that you have on your hard drive, any existing wavetable, you can import them into Kontrast and it will create a grayscale image that can then become a wavetable and a new sound source. It's really an amazing concept and I can't wait to show it to you on the channel today. So think of this like a video manual for Kontrast. I'm gonna go through Kontrast section by section and go over all the features so you guys can utilize these features in your own productions. All right, so let's go ahead and take a listen to this demo track, which of course has a couple instances of Kontrast on it already, all right? This is a preset called Faces of Eternity from Sound Author. Now, I have to give a shout out to Sound Author and Astral Abyss. He did the intro to this video and the whole Kontrast beta team. You guys were such a big help. You guys are Dawesome, you know who you are. And yeah, as you can see, this flips the whole idea of a linear wavetable on its head, right? Because we got the scan line that's making these crazy geometry shapes, right? Really cool stuff. Got some glitch percussion here. And then of course, the Void Reese from Sound for Effect, right? Kontrast does pads, it does leads, it does basses, it does sequences, plucks. I mean, there's really nothing that Kontrast cannot do. And then here, I have a self-made patch here, the sequence. Kontrast has its own sequencer built in. You can see that right here. So, that just sounds good, right? So we're gonna go through Kontrast section by section so you can see exactly how to use Kontrast in your own productions. And yeah, this synth is like a dream come true. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it. Okay, so this is Kontrast. When you first load up Kontrast, you're met with the Lushy Zen preset. Now, Peter always makes sure that the first preset that you encounter is a good one. And of course, Kontrast is no exception. So if you want to change that preset, just click on the preset name up here and you can see the preset browser. I have over 300 presets in Kontrast. All of these talented sound designers contributed some amazing presets and a lot of them are very good. That's one way to explore Kontrast right away, is just by finding what you're looking for here in the preset browser. However, what I recommend that you do is actually start with an initialized preset. The scanline is so powerful that you can use just the basic shapes wavetable and really get pretty far and have fun exploring contrast right away. So if I hit the init button up here, you can see that we're met with the initialized preset, all right? Now, normally when we think about, wavetable synthesis, we normally think about moving in a linear fashion or with the position slider, right? So you can see that I can do that with the X slider right here, going from like a square into like a morphed sign over here, right? So that's just scanning back and forth, okay? We can do that here in Kontrast. However, Kontrast takes this 10,000 times further and really allows you to manipulate the scan line in a variety of ways. I'll show you what I mean. So what we can do here is turn up the circle, and now our scan line is moving in a circle. That's cool. We can turn off the inharmonic here on the rows and increase the amount. Okay, of course, all of this is modulatable. We're gonna get into that later, right? We can add some pedals here. That's cool. So now we have this beautiful pedal-shaped scan line that's moving super fast across the entire wavetable. And let's increase the bio here. That's one of my personal favorites. And then, of course, we can add some ROT or some ROT. Listen to this. Oh, yeah. So now our scan line is appearing like it's moving in three-dimensional space. How cool is that, right? Now, like I said, you can move it across the entire display here in a variety of ways. You can use the X, or what you can do is hit the path button right here, all right? So now you can see now we're moving across the path here. Each new key that I play, I get a new path. Oh yeah, that's great. We can also record our own movement here with the record button. So I'll go ahead and play some notes again. Okay. Hit the record button. Slowly move in a figure 8 shape around the wavetable underneath. Let it go, and there you go. We can lower down the rate here, lower down the size. And so now, our manipulated scan line is scanning all across our wavetable in a really cool way. I love that. And that's just the beginning of our sound design journey, all right? So that's pretty much the scanline engine. Now over here on the left, you can see we've got vibe controls here. Turn on the vibe here. You can switch it from warm to modern. That's interesting. To console, to digital, right? Each one has a different vibe, if you will, right? Turn on some fat here. Maybe add a little bite. So he's really thought of a lot of different ways you can kind of make this interesting, okay? We have unison controls up here. We can add up to 3 voices of unison. Increase the unison spread with a really nice kind of image slider here. That's nice. Love that. And over here on the right-hand side, we have a sub-oscillator. I'm really glad that he added this because I love synths with a sub-oscillator, right? Let's lower down the octave here. Change this to a triangle. Oh yeah. There we go. Let's adjust our main ADSR down here with the main envelope. Attack, decay, sustain, and release. All right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, so that's pretty much the scan engine, if you will, right? We haven't even talked about the wavetables yet, but you can see that everything is manipulatable here. We got sync, pulse width modulation. We've got phase distortion. I mean, everything. Noise. Look at this. Add some noise here. Oh yeah. So crazy. I found myself just spending like lots and lots of time just here in the scan engine with the default wavetable, just making stuff up, having fun. Oh yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about the image wavetable engine itself. Like I said in the intro, one of the coolest things about Kontrast is it invites you into this whole idea that anything you see in the world can now become a wavetable. So I found myself at my local coffee shop taking a picture of paintings and oil paintings, or even outside taking pictures of like murals, because I thought to myself, what would this sound like in Kontrast? And to me, that's a revolutionary idea, right? So I'm going to show you how this works right now. Now, you can grab any image, like I said, that you have on your computer, or any sample or any wavetable, and you can drag it into Kontrast. And as you can see, I have those pictures that I was taking at the coffee shop here. I'll drag one in and it says drop to convert image to wavetable. And immediately right here, you can hear and see that we're now listening to a picture of that oil painting at the coffee shop in sound. How cool is that, right? Not only that, but he's given you some options here on how you actually hear that wavetable. So right now, the blurring is all the way down. If I turn up the blurring here, it erases some of the anti-aliasing that's involved with samples or wavetables, right? That's cool. So you want a smoother, blurred out wavetable, you can do that. Of course, we can modulate this, right? We can increase the contrast, which I found gets some really good results. Oh yeah. Really, really great stuff. So like I said, this doesn't just work with just images. It also works with your existing samples. So let's go ahead and try that. I've got some samples here from Chromatic 4. I'll go ahead and load up some of these Chromatic 4 samples. Plates Reso C2. So I'll just go ahead and drop it right onto Kontrast. And as you can see, it takes an audio sample and converts that into an image that we can now play and hear. Oh my goodness. So now the entire world is your sample. And I really encourage you to get out there and start taking some pictures or some audio samples and start loading them into Kontrast. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about modulation now. All right. Let's go ahead and adjust our ADSR here. We took a long time to get here, but better late than never, right? So this is the main envelope here. And of course, this is your main ADSR. So now we're sort of shaping a pad sound here. Very nice. Now, what I love about Kontrast is we have 5 different slots for modulation here, all right? Now, each one of those slots can be anything you want. It could be an envelope, it could be an LFO, it could be, a random sort of modulator, it could be MIDI, keyboard, or even a function generator. You have the option to set any of the 5 to whatever you choose. So let's choose an LFO here just to start with. We'll sync up the LFO. We'll choose, say, 2 bars, and we'll turn off the retrake. And now let's start modulating some of these sources, right? So what I love about Dawesome synths is they all carry the same design language, meaning that if you click on something, you see that these brackets show up, all right? Those 4 brackets mean this is now a modulation target. So you take one of the modulation sources, in our case, it's gonna be an LFO, and we'll modulate this by just turning the wheel. So now you can hear and see that we're adding pedals here. Oh yeah, that's amazing. Like I said, anything in Kontrast is modulatable. Let's click on the size here. We'll add some modulation from the LFO. So now we're increasing the size. Let's increase the bio. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. And keep in mind, this is all without filtering or effects right now, all right? So I found some of the greatest presets that I found in the factory library all had tons of modulation. So I highly encourage you, because it's super easy to modulate anything in Kontrast, to get going right away. A couple more notes about modulation before we move on to the next section. Like any other Dawesome product, this is fully MPE enabled, meaning you have press control, slide, aftertouch, mod wheel, the whole bit, right? You've got glide control here as well. And I want to draw your attention to the bottom left. You can see that there's this kind of sine wave with an arrow on it. That says drag from here to get the last played notes as a wave file. So if I play some notes here, Kontrast is always listening to what I'm playing, and you can literally drag out that exact sound into your DAW to do whatever you want with it. You could put it into a sampler, you can put it into a granular synthesizer of your choice. It's really an amazing feature, highly underrated, so I highly encourage you to check it out. Now, if you drag, say, an image into Dawesome's engine and it makes a cool wavetable and you want to just get that wavetable out, all you have to do is use this button up here and drag that out to your DAW, and then you've got a free wavetable as well. So it's basically an infinite engine. You can create samples, you can create your own wavetables with it. He's really made an amazing platform, all right? So the other thing I want to say is that not only can you use LFOs, but we also have, say, random modulators here. So I could use this, Increase the rise and fall here. Let's add some random to the shape here, right? So you got randoms, you have function generators here. I can draw my own shape in the function generator. That's cool. Increase the rise and fall. That's great. So we'll use function generator on, say, the Y here. Oh yeah. We'll wrap that around. Oh yeah. So you can see, I mean, this thing is fully modulatable. Of course, we have 3 macros here. Didn't even talk about those yet, but you got full macro control. So now that we've covered modulation fully, it's time to move on to the filter section. Okay, so now let's talk about the filter section. The filter section is actually extremely powerful in Kontrast, and I'm going to show you why right now. So if you click on filter over here, you can see that we start off with a nice subtle drive. It's actually interesting to have a distortion right at the beginning of the filter path. So we turn that on, get some nice grit here, switch from strong to digital, subtle, right? Different flavors of distortion. That's cool, right? Up next is we actually have a high pass or a notch filter. You can hear this is the high pass filter. Right? That's fully trackable, so we can track that by turning on the track button, okay, or a notch filter. That's cool, all right? That could be useful. And then the star of the show, we have 2 main low pass filters here, all right? So you turn those on, you can hear, oh yeah, we've got smooth, dirty, acid, cream. Now, unlike Cult, we don't have the option of like 12 dB to 24 dB, but what we do have here is really good, right? I found myself never wanting anything more than what's already given to us. That's cool. Of course, we can modulate this. Remember our yellow brackets here. We got that highlighted, so let's add some LFO here. Oh yeah. Got resonance control up here. Of course, these can be linked together. We can track them, or we can run them in series or parallel. Series meaning back to back, or parallel meaning independently. I'm just gonna go with 1 filter for now. Now, over here, we have the harmonic engine, right? Which is really cool, okay? So, what we can do here is we can load up a variety of samples. They've given you a bunch of samples, the same ones we got in Myth. However, you can also use this to drag any of your own samples onto here, and it will make sort of a harmonic overtone of whatever you want, right? Now imagine this. You could potentially use this sample extract button down here at the bottom left to sample the preset you're making, drag that into your DAW, and then drag that back onto the harmonic engine to resample the whole preset itself. It's just crazy to think about, but that's really possible in Kontrast, all right? Love that. If you're working on some dark drones, you got an harmonic engine right here. That could be cool, right? And this section over here, I love this. So in the manual, it says, what do you get when you cross FM synthesis with physically modeled gravitational systems? Now, only someone with a PhD in math would write that. Let's turn the knob to find out, right? Let's turn this knob. Oh yeah. I love it. So basically, FM synthesis with physically modeled gravitational systems, right? Love that. Got different varieties here, saw A and saw B. And then of course we have another drive here at the end. So Kontrast can be really smooth. It can also be extremely dirty, right? So that's basically the filter section. If you go over to the right-hand side, you see that we have an output section, which has a limiter on it, compressor over the top, right? Anything you'd like to see over there in an output section, you got it, okay? Panic button, the whole bit, all right? So now that we've covered the entire filter section, let's finally move on to the effects. Okay, so now let's move on to the effects section. Now, just like Kontrast's predecessor, Myth, it takes the modular pedal board approach to effects, meaning that you can add any of its available effects in any order that you choose, all right? So to get to the effects section, all you have to do is turn on the effects by hitting the orange power button right here. And now we have an active effects section, and I can start ordering them in any way that I want. I can start adding effects here. Let's add a gain, first of all, to add some sound to this. Of course, any of these knobs are modulatable. Very nice. One of my personal favorite is the grains delay. Love grains. It's got a nice preset in here called glitter. I'll use that. Oh yeah. So each module has its own set of individual presets. Want to make sure you know that. That's cool. You can save your own. That's awesome. Let's add a traditional delay here. I'm going to go with the synced ping pong delay. Let's go with dotted 8. Of course. I love that. And now, you know what I'm gonna do. I gotta add a shimmer reverb. Love me a shimmer. Pro tip here for you. A good shimmer reverb should always be low in the mix. So let's increase the size here. Make a shift plus 12, but maybe only 15% at most for your shimmer. Perfect. Now finally, we gotta add that clouds reverb. Oh yeah. Gotta add the clouds. Let's lower the earlies, up the lush, up the space, up the size. Oh my goodness. Let's play the demo track underneath it. Oh wow. So as you can hear, KONTRAST is the real deal, man. I am having so much fun with this synthesizer, and I feel like with all of these available sound design options, and you combine that with the fact that the world is now your own wavetable, and any sound can be a wavetable, it's just blowing my mind. So we still have one more section left, and we're gonna move on to that right now, but I highly encourage you guys to check this synth out. It's really an amazing synth, and yeah. Now let's move on, finally, to the sequencer section. Okay, so now let's talk about the sequencer section. Now, the sequencer is much like what you find, say, in Pigments or Hive, where you're gonna focus on the sound design first and get a nice good pluck sound or something, and then you're gonna use the sequencer to go in any direction that you choose, all right? So let's go ahead and do that right now. Now, what I'm gonna do first is just go ahead and design a pluck, all right? Fans of the channel know this is what I always do before I start a sequence. So I'll go ahead and lower the sustain all the way down here in the main envelope, and we'll lower the decay down to around a second. We'll adjust the curve here, right? That's looking cool, just like that. Maybe we'll change the wavetable to something in the sound author. He's got the collapse sign. That's sounding good. Let's go with that. All right, we'll move on to X. Oh yeah, that'll be nice. All right, now let's do some modulation here. So what we'll do is we'll take a LFO here and I'll sync it up and I'll switch it to 4 bars. Okay, I'll turn off retrig, all right? And then I'll go ahead and modulate this on the X. Let's go ahead and add some modulation here, all right? Let's modulate the size. Oh yeah. Let's turn it into a circle. Okay, that's cool. Let's go ahead and turn on the rows by turning off the inharmonics and turning up the amount. Oh yeah. Very nice. Add some bio here. Add some rot. Oh yeah. There we go. I like it. I like it. All right, great. Now let's move on to the filtering. Let's go ahead and turn on the filter here. And what we'll do is we'll use that same main envelope on the actual filter itself, just like that. And then we'll use the same LFO here to modulate the filter. There we go. Oh yeah, very nice. All right, now let's start using the sequencer, okay? So now that we got our nice pluck sound, let's go ahead and turn on the sequencer. And you can see that if I just hold down a key, we get a 16th note sequence, all right? That could be cool, right? We can go with that, okay? So what you got here is you've got a bunch of controls here. We have the different modes. We can go forward, backward. We can go forward and backward. You can go random. You have a bunch of different trigger modes here. So I can use key, legato. You can start with your DAW, or you can just hold on to it. That's cool. Again, rate control. Let's move this to, say, eighth notes here. That's cool. Of course, we have tuplet, you know, dotted, the whole thing here. We can sync it up. I also want to point out that there is scale mode here. So if you click on this little 3-line menu here, we've got chromatic, we've got minor, major, mixolydian, the whole thing. That's cool, right? So if you really want to lock it into scale and you know what notes you're playing, use the scale button. You can turn these on and off. I'll go ahead and set some notes here. Let's go ahead and make a G, F. Oh yeah. Go with the G sharp here. There we go. Very nice. Now let's do some randomization. As you can see, we got dice here. Let's do some randomized velocity. And we'll use velocity on the filter. So let's go ahead and turn up X2, which is our velocity. Oh yeah. Now let's add some effects, all right? This is getting really good, all right? So let's go ahead and add some effects here. We'll turn on the effects section. We'll add a gain here. Let's add some grains. Oh yeah, we'll add some glitter to the grains. Oh yeah. I love it. Let's add a delay here. We'll go with the sines dotted eighth. Oh yeah, and we'll go with a reverb. How about the sines verb? Very nice. Let's go ahead and make a MIDI clip on our DAW. I'll go with this note right here. Very nice. We'll make a 1-bar MIDI clip here. Are you ready? Let's go. Now we got the sequencer in motion. Here we go. Demo track engaged. You hear that? Oh my God, those grains sound incredible. Oh my goodness, let's add a clouds reverb to that. Gotta go with the clouds. Up the space, up the size. Up the lush, lower the earlies. Wow, incredible. So there you go. It's KONTRAST, right? I mean, combine this amazing new Wavetable engine with the fact that you can use anything you see in reality as a wavetable. We've got sequence in there, we've got scale mode, we've got a filter, we've got effects. The whole thing. I'm so excited about the future of this platform, and I hope you are too. So hopefully this gave you a thorough understanding of what KONTRAST is all about. So I want to thank Peter and the entire Dawesome team. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this video. And I highly encourage you guys to get out there, go out in the world, take some photos, record some sounds, and yeah, make them your wavetable. Reinvented. Anyway, I'll be back again soon with more videos like this one, and I'm sure you'll see me using KONTRAST more in the future. So in the meantime, take good care, you guys. And as always, your head's in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. I'm Chris from Signs of Life, and I'll see you guys in the next video.